The Rings of Power is to real Tolkien fans what falling off a building is to the average person. Incredibly painful and somewhat inconvenient. Episode 7, the penultimate episode. We're very near to the end now, ladies and gentlemen, and what a time it's been. It's been a particularly good time for those of you who are big fans of waterlogged, smooth-brained, window-licking, inverted IQ, Western kabuki spoon-banging. My apologies. I will try and keep the ad hominem to a minimum. It's very childish and it's beneath me. You know, after 6 hours of Amazonian torture at this point, British impertinence is the only thing keeping this leaky vessel that I call a brain afloat. But I will be resurrecting the bonk dog from the cemetery of dead memes to punish me every time I say something mean and not constructive about the show. For example, Rings of Power is poo-poo.
Silence, boy, or I'll tell them of your micro-penis.
Ouch. In other news, cap of the week goes to this article. How the Rings of Power showrunners made the best episode of TV this year.
The lie detector test determined that was a lie.
Meanwhile, dumbass of the week goes to this article. I can't believe the Rings of Power is doing this to Galadriel yet again, in which the author writes, I can't believe the series hasn't allowed her to learn her lessons by now. I tell you what, Amazon have got big old problems if even the fans of the new Galadriel are saying she's thick as shit.
It don't. It don't go down.
Robert, it goes down.
No, it don't.
It do go down.
Oh!
So, without further ado, because no more ados will be furthered while I'm around. Without further ado, episode 7, which is entitled Doomed to Die, which is funny because that would have made a pretty fitting name for the show instead of Rings of Power.
3.5 millimeters.
And episode 7 kicks off with some intense ring making. Finally, we get to see Celebrimbor in action, who, apart from Feanor, is probably the finest elven smith to have ever lived. So show us the way, Celebrimbor. Show us the unseen techniques. Show us your mastery of metal. Guys, did you see that? He just bent that ring. How does he do it? Wow! He bent that ring good. And speaking of bent, I was just going to talk about how manly and capable Celebrimbor is. There was nothing more than that. Nothing to say here.
Hello, Mr. Mouse.
Okay, you're really not helping me here, mate. It also turns out that orcs are much stronger than you might think they are. Remember Grond? Yeah, he took a bit of moving, didn't he? But what's the need for all of the trolls? They could have just employed these 4 guys, who are somehow managing to move that catapult all by themselves. Even with wheels, that's an impressive feat. This guy is just pushing the wheel. Not sure how much that's helping. This guy is using his face to push it, which looks daft until you look at the guy next to him who isn't even pushing or pulling. This guy's lifting! So the orcs have turned their catapults away from Eregion, have now faced them towards the mountains located behind and to the side of the city. The plan is that they'll fire the catapults at the mountain, breaking bits off the mountain that will then fall down into the river below, damming it. Just make sure you don't ask any questions because you're not going to get any answers. I don't fucking know.
They're damming the river.
That's very interesting. Not only are the catapults now suddenly capable of firing projectiles more than twice as far as they were before, for reasons, I'm sure, they're now capable of felling mountains as well.
You're stupid. Now wait just a minute.
We now rejoin Disa and Durin, who, when we last saw them, fought back their fellow dwarves with a swarm of cave bats.
They'll be back. And there'll be more of them.
Then we'll be ready.
Unfortunately, though, the cave bats weren't quite enough, but it has bought them time to prepare for the second wave of dwarves. So, what have they done to prepare for this next onslaught? Have they, booby-trapped the place? Found a bigger creature than a bat, maybe?
Here they come.
No, they just gave Disa a pickaxe. yeah, that ought to stop them.
We stand with you.
Oh. It did work. Well, that's fucking stupid. But still not quite as stupid as the writer who had the chance to create an interesting arc for Elrond and Durin the Fourth, but instead squandered that chance and went with
Make a living gay!
Elrond.
My heart sings to see you, old friend.
You, tidal-haired, flowery-tongued flagpole. Why are we still here? Just to suffer.
And look, I'm not just doing a meme. Not only does Durin glance at Elrond's balls, but the second Elrond turns around, he doesn't hesitate to pick at his cheeks too.
Have you any idea what I've gone through since you left?
Aha! I caught a case of piping.
Also, if your Lord of the Rings show becomes better with the addition of Coconut Mall, your music isn't good enough. Also, the Elven armour. And don't worry, I'm not going to talk about the fact it looks like it was made out of plasticine by a 4-year-old. You know, I can see that they've gone for this artsy kind of thing with the oxidized copper armour. You know, get it? Because elves live in trees. Trees are green. Rusty copper green too. The only problem is, copper, almost completely useless when making armour. It's very soft, you see, particularly when it's in its pure form. And, you know, since Celebrimbor doesn't know what an alloy is, I'm going to go ahead and assume that that's what this is.
I've seen a trace of nickel added to iron to make a blade lighter and stronger. Might there not be some alloy to amplify the qualities of your ore?
There's a reason the copper armour in Minecraft sucks. It's because it's useless. You'd be safer using sheets of lasagna. And talking of pasta, Celebrimbor finally discovers that Sauron has been deceiving him and then proceeds to act like a wet noodle. It's literally just Celebrimbor standing at various spots in the room crying to himself as Sauron watches him for 2 minutes straight. This is one of the most pathetic scenes I've ever seen in anything ever. And this is supposed to be the Lord of Eregion.
You are he. Are you not?
So, the jig is up. He's learned that Anator is, in fact, Sauron. But upon learning this, rather than engage in any kind of confrontation, he simply just walks away. He wanders off outside, and the second that he does, him and his fabulous little moo-moo gets yeeted across Eregion. Literally couldn't have picked a worse time to step outside. This is devolving into a complete shit show, and it's hilarious. I'm half surprised I didn't hear a Wilhelm scream during that little fall. So, after his little trip over the wall and back again, Celebrimbor then makes his way up to the battlements where he finds Myrddania.
You must believe me.
You have to believe me!
Why is she stood on the battlements? I have no idea. She's a blacksmith by trade, so you might think that during a battle she might be doing something useful like, I don't know, like mending weapons or something. But no! She stood on the front line, no armour, no weapon, based elf. The orcs then set up their Ravager, preparing to breach the walls of Eregion. I don't know, doesn't look like it can do that much damage to me. I think the elves will be just fine as long as the orcs don't set the Ravager up on the part of the wall where it's most thinnest.
This is the thinnest part of the wall.
Oh no, but that's just so inconvenient.
A spokesman said, "This is the one thing we didn't want to happen."
We have to brace the foundations! Quickly now!
I'm no bricklayer, but that sounds like quite a long and laborious task to brace the foundations of a building. Doesn't sound like the most viable option mid-battle. But just before you start to ask too many questions, Sauron then turns up and force throws Myrddania off a wall, but does so in a way that makes it look like Celebrimbor did it. This is easily the stupidest episode so far.
Let's get you back where you belong.
Get your hands off me! No!
Well, at least we now know why an unarmed blacksmith was stood on the battlements. It's because the plot needed her to be there, of course, so they could throw her off it. That's literally the only reason. Also, you gotta love the fact that there's a perfectly placed cutout on the wall where some projectile has hit it, right where she happens to be standing. It doesn't matter if you're a Tolkien fan or not. This show is objectively awful. The balls this show sucks are so comically large that they could have cushioned Mordania's fall off that wall. Now, this level of writing would be mildly insulting coming from an adult movie parody, but allow me to remind you that this is the most expensive television show ever made. This show is like paying to go to a Michelin star restaurant. You sit down at the fancy table, and the fancy waiter brings you a fancy silver platter, lifts it up, only to present you with a half-cooked pot noodle with a picture of Wagyu beef stapled to it with just a little message on it that says, "Fuck you." That's what this show is.
I've contained my rage for as long as possible, but I shall unleash my fury upon you like the crashing of 1,000 waves! Begone, vile man! Begone from me!
Then an elf with a poorly fitting costume shows up with the loudest horn in the universe. That is a ridiculously loud horn. They even show you, with some not so subtle CG sunlight, how far away the guy with the horn is, and it's miles! But somehow, it manages to cut across the sound of, I don't know, an entire war. Quick! Just cut to the very deliberate shot of the female Asian elf warrior lady because, you know, the script just says more agency please and I don't know what else to do. Ooh, that armor's a bit rough. Look at the horse armor! It's just so clearly actually, no, upon second glance, all of the armor is clearly foam. Why don't their helmets fit properly? Why does Gilgalad's sword not fit in its scabbard properly? And I go, the sword's made out of foam too! This is Again, this is the most expensive show ever made. Could you have not made an metal sword? Just one? No? Well, now come to think of it, this is the show that gave a number of their cast members counselling during the first season because they found shooting action scenes to be a little bit scary. So yeah, I guess, yeah, out with any pointy objects, sure. This show's budget is astronomical. Yet I have seen pantomimes with more convincing props. So where has this money gone? Where are the millions, Jeff? Ha! Someone has got awfully large pockets now, and I wonder who it is. Wow, again, very subtle use of sunlight there. You get it, guys? The sun is shining on the elves because they're the good guys. And the shade is on the orcs because bad. Remember Two Towers, guys? Except it made sense, geographically and time-wise, when Gandalf did it. There is not a single original thought in this show. And it's not even like they're making the references better. They're not even iterating upon them. They're just cheap imitations of things that were made more than 20 years ago at this point.
It is evolving, just backwards.
So then, Elrond, being a battle commander, charging towards an army of orcs with a detail of horsemen and horsemen women, of course, then halts this charge to go and have a little chat with Adar, where we find ourselves once again questioning the morals of the orcs.
Are you prepared to spend their lives so freely? Are they?
Yes. Yes, they are. It's literally what they're built for. Moving on. What? I genuinely didn't see that coming. That's his mother-in-law. What about Celeborn? What's happening? Rings of Power just went nuclear. We're at DEFCON 1. What did I just watch? It can no longer be denied. Even by the brain rot casuals, not one person can tell me this isn't fan fiction. Just when I thought we'd reached the summit of Mount Retard, I look up only to see that we've not even left base camp yet. I need a minute. Genuinely, I need to calm down. Hello there. I'm back after my small contemplation session. Now this has to be one of the biggest and most intentional middle fingers to the real fans. The fans they know, due to a lack of skill, they're not capable of satisfying. So they sat there and thought, right, what can we do to simultaneously make the casual salivate and piss off the real fans? Oh, I know, it's the same formula as always. Say, it's as predictable as ever. Oh, let's make them kiss. Yeah, marvellous. Splendipitous. So bold, so brave. IGN 10 out of 10. So after that apocalyptic aneurysm, we now move to Khazad-dûm, where Durin the Fourth is rallying the Dwarven army.
Warriors of Khazad-dûm!
Yeah, when we see him beginning his address to Khazad-dûm, as a whole, I did expect like a panning shot to swing round only to reveal like a sea of armoured dwarves, but no, it's just a bunch of rather old, rather homeless-looking doughballs. I've legit not witnessed a scene in this show yet with more than 10 people in one shot. Again, where's the money? It wasn't spent on the props. It wasn't spent on the sets. It wasn't spent on the cast. Where's the hundreds of millions of dollars, Jeff? Okay, Elrond, you're going to hit orc number 1, and then orc number 2, and then wait to get hit by orc number 3. Just don't make it obvious. And you'll be happy to know that Family Man Orc is back once again, only this time, he just doesn't feel seen enough.
Adar!
Guys, this is so sad. We then get a scene of the orcs burning and honouring their dead in yet another weird attempt to humanise them further. And then, as this show has literally no original ideas, the Celebrimbor arc then turns into a Saw movie as he's chained to the desk in the forge with handcuffs. He's trying to find a way to remove these handcuffs. He can't seem to do so until he finds a metal cutting device. Now, some of you might be thinking, ooh, this is going to get a little bit grisly. But others, like myself, might be thinking, why not try using that metal cutter that's specifically designed to cut metal to cut your metal handcuffs rather than sticking your thumb in it and lopping it off, you crumpet?
Whose will is the mightier?
Some people are really fucking stupid.
I tell you what, they really did Joe Biden the hell out of Celebrimbor. First he gave him dementia, and now, every time he tries going for a walk, he just ends up tumbling. We then get an epic girl boss moment where a random, nameless female elf warrior gets shot up with a bunch of arrows, but manages to get back up, fire an arrow back horizontally, only to have it land vertically in a bucket full of explosive liquid. Why would you leave the explosive bucket's lid open in the middle of a battlefield? I've not done many risk assessments on the front lines, but that seems like a bit of an occupational hazard. Seems like a bit of a silly thing to do. Gotta have that girl boss moment, so you go, girl. Whoop. Okay, it's nice to see area manager Gilgalad doing something other than standing around pouting, but could I ask why he brought a grappling hook to the battlefield? That's a really specific weapon. In fact, it's not even a weapon. Why does he have it? Now, I've given the music in this series a lot of stick in the past, but the outro song to this episode is the most Tolkienian track I've ever heard. Forget the Peter Jackson trilogy. Forget Howard Shore. They don't know what they're talking about. Boys, I'm telling you, this is the one. This is the one song to rule them all. Well, that was easily the worst the most offensive episode of Rings of Power so far, out of both seasons, I'd say. That was thermonuclear garbage. And that track at the end, if that isn't the most perfect cherry on top to a shit trifle, I don't know what is. I am genuinely impressed how low they managed to stoop in this episode. There's no way episode 8 can get any worse than that. There's no way. There is only one way to find out. So join me next week for that, for the very final episode. I look forward to seeing you there. But until then, just keep hanging on, guys. You can do it. There's phone numbers out there. Call them. Just stick with me. And as always, we have the channel members and the Patreons, and these are the top tiers. These are the Knights of Lore. We have Michael Myson, Pozabon, Flunky, Daggerdoo69, nice, Jax, Koss, Michael Myson, Texas Lawman, ATS, Saint Nemo, Steve the Goat, the Grand Admiral, Jordan96, and Patrick Coyne. To each one of you, I thank you for serving the realm. Bless each and every one of you. Tier 2s, big thank you to each one of you, and the Tier 1s as well. To everyone on this list, thank you for going out of your way to support me here on this channel. It means a lot. And there we go. Another day, another video. Will you join me for the next one? You better do. You little bitch. But until then, I'll see you very soon in the next one. In the meantime, take care.